What's going on, YouTube? You're back with Shades, and we're continuing our Let's Play of Katawa Shoujo. I actually have no idea if this is going to be a dirty part or not. I'm hoping it's a no, but if not, because then this entire part will be cut out, and it'll just be an unlisted video. I'm hoping it's not, but based on how the game has been, like shoving sex in my face, there's no clear guarantee that that's not going to happen. So anyway, Lily's breath catches as my hand come over hers, tentatively following her fingers between her legs and losing them as they go underneath her underwear. Also, I'm sorry I forgot to grab the mic from my media center here on campus, but on Friday I had a really busy day. I had an event that my club was hosting, and I literally the most important thing in my mind was like, oh, I have to make sure that event runs super smoothly. And then by the time I realized I didn't sign out the mic yet, the office had already closed for the weekend. So sorry about that. That is my fault completely. I'm sorry. So I will try again next week, but I'm not entirely sure if I will be able to do it next week. I got a lot of exams coming up then. So I might not record at all next weekend. So we'll see. But anyway. Just the slightest moisture touches my fingertips, but it's not nearly enough. But it's enough to easily work out what she's doing. Oh God! My mind suddenly fills with visions of what she must be like in front of me right now. I'd never even imagined her doing this before. But being able to see her doing the act only enhances the mood. I worked the blindfold upwards, brushing out of my eyes a couple of hairs that were stuck to the ribbon before. For a period of time, I can only guess that. My mind goes completely blank. All I can do is stare at this newly freed eyes as my newly freed eyes take in everything in front of them. Oh! Oh God! This really will be cut out. Oh God! Just as it worked out, Lily sits in front of me. Schlucking! By the way, that is a term for women masturbating. Schlucking. Oh God! It's not sex, but Jesus! With one hand on the ground to steady herself and the other's fingers lightly brushing between her legs, hidden by her dark blue underwear, I think it's the most erotic sight I've ever seen. Once again, I reach out and brush her hair from her face, her chin tilting outwards as she fills her pleasure-wrapped body with another breath of air. Oh, I did not want erotica. So this really will be cut out. This is lovely. Lily. Lily looks oddly cute as she smiles at my calling of her name. It always seems like it's at the moment where she's least attentive and that lets her most interesting emotions slip out. It's not long before she works her fingers over herself faster than before, her excitement evidently rising, the scent of her sweat in the air only echoing the fact. I sit in front of her. It's hardly as if my own arousal is holding still. It's taking every fiber of my being to let her continue by herself, instead of pushing myself on top of her. It's strange. I'd initially found her clouded blue eyes to be distracting, almost disturbing in the lack of focus. That bothers me far less than it used to now. My attention refocuses on her as she lets out a whimper, her breath coming much faster than before, and her hips suddenly rocking. I should never make an audiobook, because Jesus Christ, my diction is way too fast for people to normally read. No sooner do I realize how close to the edge Lily's become, her breath catches, her eyes clap shut as every muscle in her body seems to contract, and she unmistakably reaches her climax. For only a scant few seconds she tightens, huddled in ecstasy before her body relaxes and a long drained sigh comes from her lips. I just have no idea what to say. Silence reigns while I simply watch her, her hair hanging over her face as she sits exhausted. Hisao. When she reaches out to brush my face, my urges take complete control of my body. Without so much as a second thought, I push myself over her frame. It's an unusual feeling, but being like this, I feel oddly powerful, holding myself above her blank face, as though for the first time since the accident so long ago, I feel physically strong. Lily, I want you. Why is there more than two sex scenes already? Jesus Christ, the game hasn't ended yet. Normally we don't get one to the end. Anyway, let me try to get through this so I can start the actual recording. To my surprise, she smiles weakly before reaching upwards to feel the side of my face. It's an almost cheeky expression, of which she usually gives only after getting something out of me. You wanted me to do this. She holds her smile and gives a silent nod. I guess it was an effective way to make me take the initiative for once. And again, to my surprise, she gives the ribbon still around my head a sharp tug downwards. Once again, I'm lost in complete blackness. I told you to keep it on, didn't I? The teasing edge to Lily's voice, punctuated by her breathing. She never seems to lose her ability to take control of a situation. But this one time... Hisa, what are you... I slide my hands underneath her soft silk and skin pressing into my hands as I gently raise her body with a measure of difficulty. While I wouldn't describe her as heavy, her height makes her more than a handful to try and lift. It only takes a couple of carefully placed steps to feel the edge of her bed against my legs, my lowering of Lily onto her sheets, and just as gentle as when I raised her. Your bed will be more comfortable than the floor, right? Always the gentleman, aren't you? I quickly run my hands down Lily's long, shapely legs, their allure far from diminished without the luxury of sight, and pull off her pajama shorts and underwear from her ankle. I have no idea where those just went. Well, I guess it doesn't matter. They'll be somewhere around. With a minimum of fuss, I shuffle down my own pajama trousers and underwear, positioning myself between her legs, or at least where I think it is between her legs. With one hand on her bed to steady myself, my right moves tentatively downward. Whoops, my first contact with her palm is clumsily meeting the front of her nose. She giggles a little before turning her head sideways, taking my cue. I gently cradle her cheek and use my thumb to feel the contours of her face, as she often does with me. This would be a lot easier if she wasn't moving her face into my hand, but the feeling of her nuzzling into it is so nice. I swallow to try and steady myself, take my other hand from the bed, and use it to guide myself into her. As soon as I feel her warmth around me, I quickly realize just how turned on I am. With my sight gone, I'm free to concentrate far more on my other senses, including tactile feeling. The entire experience feels more vivid, more intense than it's been before. I slowly start to move my hips back and forth, my heart beating wildly in excitement. I feel Lily's eyes clenching shut, the movement of her cheek under my thumb reminding me of the gentle hold I have on the side of her face. It's hard to stop myself from being completely overwhelmed. It's hard to think that this is what sex is usually like for her, experienced through every sense but the one I hold dearest. From her cheek to her neck, I begin to slide my hand downwards to take in the feeling of her body. The contours of her collarbone, the light dew resting on her skin. This is not sexy at all from when I'm reading it, it's just I want to get it over with. My sense of smell is stimulated by the scent of her sweat and mine hanging in the air. Even the ambient smell, noticeably different from that of my own room, adds to the feeling. When I move my hand to her supple breast, her soft mewling fills my ears, along with the sound of our act. By the way, I looked up on the Katawa Shoujo website, which, by the way, if you wanted to play this game by yourself, the game link is always in the description. Basically, like I looked up the bios of the characters, and all of them have like the measurements of the characters, and I'm like, that's a little weird. Why would you go that far? But I remember that these characters are drawn out themselves, so like I guess that makes sense to have their full measurements taken into account. And Lily is the bustiest character out of all of them, and Emmy is the least busty character out of all of them. It's just an interesting thought. The skin under my hand moves back and forth with each thrust, my grip on it tightening as my lust for the near-naked body of Lily before me grows. I can feel her small nipple against my palm, my hand slides further and my fingers pluck it through the thin silk of her pajama top. Her whimpering turns to moans as she fills with the same pleasure as I can feel my heart beating loudly in my chest and her own beating underneath my hand. I could feel her hands clasp my wrists, their grip surprisingly tight as her chest rises in overwhelming pleasure. More. I want more. Oh. I can feel my chest tightening as I rock back and forth frantically, both of us entirely taken with ourselves. Up, here it goes. Nothing that unusual. I need to take deeper breaths to steady myself. Up, fuck. This feeling is just normal. This isn't. I can't. This pain is too much. Oh shit. I stumble backwards from Lily with unseeming haste, clumsily hitting the back of my foot against the table, falling to the ground with an unceremonious crash. Breathing wildly, I frantically scrape the ribbon over my eyes as I lay over my back. I have to get this off. I have to get this off. For a moment, everything goes blank. Okay, guys, I think we're back. I think we're finally done with the sexy sex. I may have to censor something because Lily might be naked. I don't know. But for the part I cut out, simply put, we were doing the do. We were getting a little frisky. And, well, as a guy with a heart condition, well, I got a little too into it. And my heart started to make an attack. So anyway, we're back to the normal recording. And I'm not at all, like, frustrated about this. Most of it didn't even need to be censored. It was just that, you know what? Fuck it. I didn't need to censor this part. It was just descriptions, and it wasn't even that bad. We'll keep it in this time, only because I did not have to censor too much. I only had to censor one thing, and that was just Lily masturbating. So a little bit of content is not necessary. Seconds pass, and I carefully measure out the rhythm of my heartbeats with every ounce of concentration I can muster. My heart is normal. It's back to normal. My body feels utterly bizarre as I lay dazed on the floor, looking at the ceiling. The adrenaline from before is still pouring through my veins, but my mind is completely exhausted. I prop myself up as I hear Lily getting off the bed and coming towards me. Hisao, are you okay? Hisao. I'm fine, Lily. I'm fine. She gives a sigh of relief, her worried expression collapsing. Her face afterward is the very last I ever wanted to see from her. It's a face I detested when I first saw my parents in the hospital all those months ago. Pity. Lily pities me. I just close my eyes and turn away, powerless. I feel like throwing up. I can hear the sound of Lily moving away, quickly attending to herself, the ruffling of her clothing being pulled back on after a moment of searching just barely audible. Hang on, gotta scratch my ear. Sorry. She slowly shakes her head as she finishes buttoning up her top. Her kind smile looks so fragile, so delicate, that it makes my heart sink. Approaching carefully, she feels out the edge of the low table before taking a seat next to me, putting her arms around my chest. I'm sorry, Hisao. I shouldn't have pushed my desires onto you. You don't need to apologize. I'd normally be fine. You've seen that much before. I guess I shouldn't have tried to push myself so far. My eyelids feel heavy. Calmly sitting next to her like this is probably letting the adrenaline work itself out of my system and letting my mind relax. So that's why you never took the lead? Yeah, I guess it's a good thing you like to, huh? The joke seems to lighten her expression a little, a fact which helps let me feel less unease about my unreliable self. Lily's head comes to rest on my shoulder as I struggle to keep my eyes open with more difficulty after each blink. I feel completely drained. Uh-oh. It's okay, Hisao. It's all okay. No sooner does she say this than a small quiet tune escapes her lips. Entirely too tired to think, all I can do is listen to her soft humming. It's a soft, almost melancholic tune. It sounds familiar, but the more I try to remember its origin, the less I seem able to concentrate. The feeling and scent of her hand gently resting on my shoulder, her warm body against my side are soothing. The soft humming of her voice, too, relaxes my mind as much as her warmth relaxes my muscles. The singular quiet moment, after all this fracas, it makes me realize just how exhausted I've become. I feel my eyelids slowly becoming heavier and heavier. Even with the chaos as before, I wish this moment would last forever. Lily and I together, sharing a single solitary occasion together, just as we used to. But if that's the case, why does she feel further away than she's ever felt before? That's sad. I don't know what's happening, but I know that this is usually the part when the bad shit starts happening, so, I don't know what's gonna happen. Oh god! The loud clatter of books falling into the return slot abruptly breaks the grip of silence over the school library. It's become a habit of me to come to the library at least once a week. Not only does the reading itself keep me busy, but discussing books with Hanako and Lily also does. Obviously startled, Yuko suddenly twists toward the direction of the noise. I'd have thought her used to people dropping books by now, since she does the work here. Oh, hello, Hisao. Back again? It takes me a moment to respond, my mind still distracted by the familiar melody of Lily's humming that hardly left my ears in the several days it's been since I fell asleep to it. Oh yeah, just returning some books I found. Borrowed, whoops. She cast her eyes downwards, presumably to the bin the books dropped into. You're a very heavy reader, aren't you? It's become a bit of a routine now. Passes the time, at least. I wish I had free time to pass. From small talk to desperation in less than 5 seconds. I think that's a new record for her. She seems to be down in general today, even compared to normal. Considering she has to work 2 jobs just to support herself, I could see how that would take a toll on her lifestyle. Come to think of it, the pay for her job here can't be all that bad. The idea of staff in such a prestigious private school going hungry strikes me as counterintuitive. Sorry, Suiga Wada. Working 2 jobs must take a lot of time. I'd probably never manage it. You're lucky being a student. Do you think you'll be able to go to university? If she's asking, then I guess that's expected result having this kind of education. Private schools like this don't exactly come cheap. I guess I have the money, I think. I've got plans which will require going to one, and my grades are good enough. It's more of a matter of how I'll pay to do so. University costs University costs so much that I'm having to work 2 jobs to afford to enter it. Paying for daily expenses too makes it a lot harder. If you're reading this much though, that means you're doing well in school, right? Interesting logical jump. Not altogether wrong though. I suppose so. I didn't find any of the exams very hard aside from maybe 1 or 2. Do you mind if I ask what studies you're pursuing in university? Yuko appears to genuinely brighten at the question. Anthropology, to be specific. I'm specializing in the history of classical era Athenian civilization and democracy. Anthropology, that's like relics and stuff like that, right? I could be wrong. I'm not entirely sure what anthropology is. Not a lot of historical studies are very familiar with me. She really seems to know her stuff. Such enthusiasm is to be admired, and it's nice to see her genuinely excited about something. I guess even somebody like Yuko can be happy if she has a visible road ahead of her. That's good to hear. If you... Oh, God. Both of us jump at the sudden interruption coming from my pocket. Apologizing profusely and quickly shuffling into the hallway as I fumble with the cover of my mobile phone, I glance at the screen. Weird. It's a mobile number I don't recognize. Considering I can count the number of people with my number on one hand, I briefly wonder whether it's some telemarketer that lucked out. Hello? Hisanakai speaking. Jeez, pick up faster next time. Anyway, guess who? It only takes me a second to recognize the distinctively deep, brusque voice. Hey, Misha. Didn't expect you to call me. Music! Huh? You actually think I sound like her? Not at all, Akira. I don't remember giving you my number, though, so I thought I'd mess with you. Oh, that. I got Lily to give it to me, not hard. She positively brims with pride at the statement. She's trying to get me caught up in her pace. I know it. Oops. I suppose I shouldn't be surprised that the two would share my number, though, given how close they are. So what's up? You free right now? I guess. Why? Could you meet me at the park in town? I just want to talk to you about some stuff. Is that an invitation to a date? What? Of course not. She sounds suddenly crestfallen, her previous teasing nature having instantaneously left. It seems strange for her. Anyway, I don't see why not. When do you want to meet? Kind of now-ish. Wait, right now? But it's... The dead silence suddenly comes from... The dead silence suddenly coming from the phone announces the fact that she unceremoniously hung up. For a long time I just stand there, staring at the call ended message on my screen or playing the conversation in my mind. What the hell, Akira? Throwing a glance up and down the street, I cross the road, step into the park. Sorry, I just took off my glasses. I couldn't tell what was being said there. I don't like wearing contacts. I've learned to pace myself on such walks, mostly because Lily's slower speed during our forays in the town means I have to consciously slow myself. I almost said slower, what the fuck? That aside, I hope Akira didn't expect me to be immediately prompt. She drinking a beer? It only takes a couple of seconds to spot her, waiting on the bench with a can of beer in her hand. What's with the cinematic? The look she gives me as I walk up lacks any hint of acknowledgement or greeting. What's with that look? I needn't have come, you know. I knew you would. You're the kind of person, after all. I'm guessing this is when the serious shit starts happening. Anyway, adjusting my glasses. Also, I've been trying to experiment with where I position my microphone as far as my headset goes, because I'm trying not to have it in an area where I can breathe on it. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and sometimes it still sounds like breathy, but I can't do much about that. I lower my brow at her remark as she disposes of the can, emptied by the time I arrive, and a metallic clatter rings out. Akira takes a seat on the old wooden bench, and I follow her lead. She takes another can of beer from beside her and opens it before speaking, taking a large gulp. She seems to really like that stuff. I suppose I don't need to ask what this is about, or rather who it's about. I heard from Lily that you asked about our family. They share more than phone numbers, that's for sure. I'd probably be very worried right now if it weren't for the total lack of malice in her voice. Rather, her tone almost sounds wistful. Idle curiosity, mostly. I have to admit, I'd never have guessed you two were half Scottish. She gives a wry chuckle of amusement. I've heard that before, trust me. The small smile falls from her face, her eyes looking ahead distinctly. Aside from the occasional elderly couple talking as they slowly walk the meandering paths and an odd aging car, it's pleasantly quiet. She didn't tell you everything, though, did she? It was pretty brief. Your parents live in Scotland, she hasn't met them since she was 12, and she wants to meet them again. It's always surprised me how devoted she is to our parents, for all the good they did us. The way she says it sounds almost derisive. She gives a small sigh, as if to quickly brush the feelings away. Why do you think they left, Hisao? Why do I think they left? From what Lily told me, it was because of work, I guess. Pretty decently paying job was involved as well, given the way your parents seem to live. Still, Lily went to a private school, and that's why she carries herself with airs and graces of an upper class. Yeah, since the business of Innervis boomed, our father decided to move directly to the same city as its headquarters. That's just the conclusion I thought you'd come to, though you're too good-natured. You don't think they left for their career? I'm sitting here bitching to you about it. What do you think? Yamaku Academy. I've always thought that place was kind of creepy, like it was an isolated hideaway for those proper society doesn't want to see it or hear. They probably just rue the fact that Lily wasn't old enough to be shoved there by the time they left. A long silence follows her abrupt and very harsh criticism of her own parents and Yamaku. I have to admit that in the back of my mind, that was a thought. That, like, maybe Lily's parents just didn't want to deal with Lily being blind. That maybe to them, their career was more important than learning how to properly deal with Lily being blind. And unfortunately, in the society today, that is prominent when a person is blind, deaf, mute, psychologically impaired, mentally impaired. Like, people think, oh, god damn, that sucks. When, in all honesty, there's very little control over it. Like, you can get surgery for deafness. You can, if someone's a deaf mute, which is usually what it is, like, you can get surgery so they can learn to hear and talk. And if someone was born mute, I think there is, like, some sort of birth defect that causes the vocal cords not to function. I'm not entirely sure. I'd have to look that up, but it happens, and like some physical impairments, if that's the right word. I don't think so. I lost the actual word. Some handicaps. There it is. I don't like saying the word, but like blindness can be quote unquote cured if you have the right donor. Or if it's not the nerves that are not functioning. I think. I know that blindness is a bit harder to alleviate than like something like deafness, where if you get it close enough to get a cochlear implant, you can be cured. But with blindness, I think it's something to do with the nerves and the signals from the eyes not going directly to the brain, and the next thing you know, the brain just lets the eyes die. Anyway, I let my medical lecture go on long enough. Lily's blindness is hardly something that could be simply ignored for a high-class family attempting to keep her appearances, much less so with the lucrative offers on the table. Eventually, Akira gives a derisive snort, her feelings coming to a head. Moving to secure our financial future with his new job posting. Even at the time, I hardly believed it. Not wanting to simply be an avenue for her venting, I gently tried to steer the discussion. So you stayed in Japan with Lily then? Either I stayed with her, or she went to live with an ailing grandmother and grandfather. What about Shizune's family? If you're cousins, then... Our fathers hate each other. I'd have been more than happy to tell them to go screw themselves and live with them anyway, but Lily wouldn't have wanted that. I'd also had an offer for a job by then, so we did our best to keep our parents' house in proper shape, and I tried to continue our lives as if they'd never left. So we just lived by ourselves? Basically, Lily had school and I had my job, so we weren't exactly languishing. With her schooling, her study, and having to do chores while I worked, though, I can't help feeling like I failed her. In the end, I tried to be there for her, and I screwed it up. Expecting a 19-year-old to be a mother for a blind child, it's ridiculous. So Lily and Akira lived alone with their parents after their parents moved, with Lily largely taking care of herself. I guess that explains her apparent independence compared to many in Yamaku. I may have lived alone much of the time since my parents both worked, but that's just something else entirely. Sorry for making you listen to my mourning, Hisao. I don't mind at all, but do you mind if I ask why you're telling me all this? You always were curious. Context, I suppose. Life isn't a fairy tale, Hisao. Some people have to learn that the hard way. She takes a long drink from the can in her hand, her face becoming more depressed than distant. I broke up with my boyfriend a few days ago. After I leave, we're not going to be able to see each other again. Oh, that's sad. That's honestly very sad. And I'm guessing the breakup wasn't like they weren't working out. It was that since Akira's going to work in Scotland, they're never going to be able to see each other, so it was mutually beneficial. But I can still imagine that hurts because I've seen it. I've seen it happen. It hasn't directly happened to me, but like it hasn't happened to me that that me and another person in the relationship are going very well and a situation forces us apart. But I've seen it happen. Like some people honestly don't know how to deal with a long distance relationship, so they end up breaking it off because it doesn't work out, and that's how it happens. Things like this happen, and situations often break relationships, and sometimes for the better. But for the beginning of it, it hurts. It hurts. But that's how life is. You can't just set your life up and expect it to stay that way forever. Sometimes stuff happens that you have to roll with, even if it means hurting yourself or others. She takes a long breath before looking up at the bright orange sky. Damn, if I smoked, I could take a nice long drag right about now and look kinda cool. I want to respond, to help her in whatever way I can, but I feel utterly useless. This kind of situation is one I've been in, and I simply don't have the experience to say anything meaningful to comfort her. Akira looks over and evidently picks up on this, much to my embarrassment. I must look pretty pathetic right now, whining about this to someone I barely know. Hardly, and I'm pretty much an expert on looking pathetic. She gives a chuckle, the act feeling like a personal victory for me. You're a good kid, Isao. When I said that I approved of you being with my sister, I wasn't joking or just being nice. She picks herself up with a grunt and one that seems ill-fitting given her age, and throws a now empty can into the bin after one last swig. It's just unfortunate that it doesn't really count for much in this world. When I said that I was leaving for Scotland, I was doing it because a good position opened up in our company's headquarters. When our folks told me that when we were in their place, though, they also gave Lily a summons to rejoin them in Inverness. No way. Her evasiveness when I asked about our future, that awkwardness that had steadily grown between us, that uncharacteristic outburst of anger, all of them suddenly fit into place. The same family that she reminisced about after Hanako's birthday, the same family that left her and Akira to themselves after taking flight to greener pastures. Now I feel stupid for never cornering Lily on what's been bugging her. I'd never even considered if something had happened during our trip to her family's home at Iverness, I don't know how to properly pronounce that. And now the sense of unease grows in my chest. If her family has summoned her to join them in Scotland, all the way on the other side of the earth. Has she accepted? Lily hasn't told me whether she plans to accept, and it seems she hasn't told you either. That's why I called you down here to talk, Hisao. Context, huh? I sit back, my feelings of worry and frustration no doubt written all over my face. Lily's a strong person, Hisao, but she's not infallible. I guess it's my job to worry about her being her older sister, but I think that you deserve to know. I understand. This is really loud. You okay? You sound depressed. No, I'm just thinking. That's good. Thinking is good. Being rash won't get you anywhere. She looks at her watch, barely moving her wrist. I've gotta go. Will you be okay? I'll be fine, don't worry. I'll have to talk to Lily about it and get everything sorted out. She gives a smile, but it doesn't feel at all that genuine or sincere. Really, both of us are dancing around the fact that Lily's on the precipice of the biggest decision of her life, and is trying to take the entire burden on herself. And the part of the burden is a matter of our relationship. By the time I look up, Akira's already walking off with her hand held up. For the first time in a long while, I finally have an answer to something. Perhaps not even that, but at least now I have the right question to ask. Will you leave or stay? Perfect cliffhanger! Perfect cliffhanger! I'm gonna end it right here. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you want to see more videos from me or from this series, hit the subscribe button. And you are now exiting the Shadeverse. My name's Shades, and I'm gonna keep going. Because Jesus Christ, it keeps going for me. But you guys have to wait for another week. So, see you guys then.